Thank you everyone for joining us today on TokYo-Yo Talk. My name is T, and I'm very, very excited to be joined by today's guest, who is Talia from One Drop, and you might also know her from her Instagram page, and excited to have her on the show today, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
Cool.
Excited about it.
All right, so for the people who shamefully don't know who you are, would you like to give us a little introduction about yourself?
Sure. So, my name is Talia. Sometimes go by Tails, depending on where you are, I guess, in the community. I just recently got sponsored by One Drop Yo-Yos. They're amazing. I've been yo-yoing for, a little while. 5 or 6 years, I think. Yeah, I'm based in Utah. One of the only female players here, so that's fun. I have a dog.
You have a dog. Nice. What kind of dog?
I've got an American Pit Bull Terrier.
Oh, nice. What's the name?
Sweetheart. She's all over my Instagram.
Oh, nice.
She's the cute.
You mentioned the One Drop sponsorship.
Yeah. I have been super into One Drop for probably 2 years now. Favorite yo-yo probably still is the Cascade. And I couldn't afford it at first, and so One Drop ended up in Utah for one of the contests, and they had Will Prater and Paul Dang and JT Nickel out here. They had this little deal going on at a meet where you could buy any yo-yo in this box for $30 or something. I was really torn between two yo-yos, and Will gave me the one I really wanted, and then another one just helping out, given to someone who couldn't afford it. They would come down for meets and things like that when they were in the area, and it was a lot of fun, and I don't know, I really bonded with them, I guess, in a sense. Just really got along with them. So I was I'm going to look further into One Drop, more so than I already had. I don't know, it was just cool. We kept in touch, myself and Will, a lot. I think Utah States this year, I finally just kind of mustered up the courage and was so what does it take for one to become a sponsored member of One Drop? Mm-hmm. Or part of the family in a way, an honorary member of One Drop. And it kind of just went on from there, and they helped me out. I ended up going out to Bay Area Classics for the first time and to the warehouse, and they asked if I would like to join the team there. Of course, I was thrilled, beyond thrilled. And I was Dr. B, Greg Angel, and Will Prater. And it was really cool. I don't know, I didn't ever really think about getting sponsored like that. Of course it crossed my mind, but I never really thought of it as an actual thing that might happen. So when it did happen, it was really cool.
It seems like the sponsorship came around pretty naturally, they kind of saw what you were doing and were just interested.
Yeah, and so, of course I did post, with the yo-yos a lot on Instagram, but I do that with almost anything I'm super interested in at the time on Instagram. So they had seen me and everything, but some of the team members felt like I just kind of fit One Drop, I guess, kept their eye on me, and we always hung out at contests and stuff because they're good people, and no, everyone on the team's amazing. They're really cool.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to Dr. B a couple weeks ago. There's kind of some similarities there. It sounds like, One Drop is very perceptive of what the community does. They're so community facing, and they really seem to, grab people who, not just, they're not looking for people to boost the brand, but people who are nice and good at being nice on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's probably the biggest thing with One Drop is you don't really even have to be that skilled in yo-yoing per se. If you're if they think that you would benefit the team in any way, then they're going to try to get you on the team or ask if you'd like to be on the team. And the biggest thing with that is, of course, if you are nice, I guess. Every member on One Drop is super, super nice. I've all of the ones I've met have always been super chill, and they're definitely the type of people you want to be around at a contest where, of course it's competitive. And so it's nice to be around people who aren't as focused on that.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I'm glad that that's the type of team I ended up kind of stumbling onto.
Stumbling onto
that team.
Interesting choice of words. All right. So I was kind of reading a little bit about you on the One Drop page, and just like background in yo-yo, and I noticed something about teaching.
Yes.
So are you an educator, or do you just teach yo-yo, or what's your background there?
So I just teach yo-yoing. Anytime like someone in the Utah yo-yo community is interested in someone else learning, they typically bring them to me because I've kind of made sure that I love teaching. That's my favorite part of yo-yoing, is being able to share it, because I find so much joy in it. And it's so much fun seeing if like anyone else finds that much joy in it. And so, yeah, for a while it was just kind of like friends here and there, and then kind of just continued. And now I'm sort of the go-to at like meets if someone wants someone to teach a new trick and things like that, like beginners. I really like to try to get everyone involved in the meet. I do this festival every year where I go and perform, and then I teach kids and whoever else wants to learn afterward. It's a lot of fun, and so I'm trying to do a little more with that, but as of right now, it's mostly just at the meets, teaching kids. It's a lot of fun.
So it's not really something like you schedule. It's more like you're always available. If somebody needs the help, you're ready to help them out.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hoping to start up as soon as I can, when I'm not as busy. Just with each meet, have a little like free yo-yo class and try to get some more kids involved that way. Like if someone's like, "Oh, I can't yo-yo," and I'm like, "Well, I'll teach you how to yo-yo. I teach yo-yoing." It piques their interest a little more, because then it seems more like a possibility to them.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people watch someone playing yo-yo, they immediately, one of the first things you usually hear is like, "Wow, I could never do that."
For sure.
You just need the right teacher. Cool.
Yeah, and it's definitely harder. There are some people who are amazing players, but just kind of, it's harder for them to teach, like explain their tricks and explain how to do the basics. And so I try to balance it out where I can still have some decent tricks, but I'm still able to explain it to the best of my abilities.
You kind of mentioned going to meets and things like that, and I also was reading about how you were getting more into competitions. It's interesting for One Drop, because you don't usually think of them as a competition-oriented company, at least in my experience.
Like the most competitive player on One Drop for a while was probably like Graham or JT, I think. Like Paul was pretty competitive for a minute, but not too long. And so now we've got a few more players that are really quite competitive, and that's pretty cool, and I'm excited to hopefully be one of those players who are more competitive in it. Before this, a lot of my problem was getting to the competitions, help out as much as they can for that, and I'm so grateful for that. It's a lot of fun being able to go. My first competition, though, was in 2014, I believe. The Utah State contest that they brought back. I placed 5th overall. I was really excited about it, and they were all super sweet. Like, kind of went out of their way to acknowledge the fact that I was the only female competitor, and it was really cool. It made me feel a lot more welcome, I think. Yeah, after that contest, I really enjoyed it. I think only a few others. I haven't been to very many contests yet and competed. I never missed the Utah State's contest.
As you mentioned, being the only female player, you really do hear that echoed a lot throughout, different states as well. There's only a few really, I think, prolific players. You have like Anne Connolly, or I've talked to Mathilde Witt, who's the German player, designed she's with TokYo-Yo, but
yes,
very very few, I think, female players that are really what's the word? I guess to say again, like prolific in the community, and it must be a kind of a challenge to have that, to have to represent, put that on your shoulders.
Yeah, like you could say it that way for sure. It's I think I've competed against 2 females ever. And so that's just like a fact in the community. It's male dominant, which is strange to think about, but I don't know why it is. But yeah, you don't really hear about many competitive female players, or female players who are really more involved in like the social media aspect of the community and everything. I could see how it would be harder to get more involved in the competitive aspect of yo-yoing as a female if you don't really see many like in your region who are competitive. Because it is almost like, well, I'm the only girl, I better do a good job. And so like it can feel that way at times, but my friends have always been most of the people I've met in the community, I've never gotten any grief for being the only female player. The only sort of thing I've ever felt differently than I think anyone else would be, because I was the only female player, it was kind of more like I felt more people were watching, and that kind of freaked out a little bit. Okay. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say difficult, but it's definitely a thing.
Right. Okay. Well, actually, you very naturally answered pretty much every question I had. We're pretty good there. Shall we move on to our Instagram questions?
Sweet.
All right. We'll start with our first question here, which is from Blamin, who asks, can you do an Iwasawa tower, and what is the highest hook you can land? 1 or 2 or 2.5, etc.?
I cannot do the tower. I haven't tried it, so I guess I don't know if I can or can't. I've never tried the tower. So I'll get back to you on that. I'll try the tower and then post it on Instagram if I can do the tower.
Cool.
But I can't do any hooks. Like, the best I can do is just a normal hook. I can't do any of the, like, 1.5s or 2.0s or whatever they are. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around.
All right. Yeah, I'm still at the single. I don't think I'll ever go past that. I'm satisfied where I am.
It's hard for sure. I'm not great with that whipping motion. I just learned Brent Stoll. You're going to have to give me more time for this.
Nice. I actually just started landing Brent Stoll yesterday, consistently for the first time ever.
Yeah, it's a hard one, man. Like, everyone's always like, it's so easy, and I just could never wrap my brain around it until that trip to Oregon and California for BACs. But I've been yo-yoing for like 6 years, so that's quite some time.
Our next one is from Brad Hawaii Vibes, who asks, well, I think you answered one of these already, but favorite yo-yo and string?
Favorite yo-yo and string? My favorite string is... Oh, that's kind of hard too, actually. That's a hard question. So string-wise, I always go for kitty string when I compete. It's just, I think, quality string, and you can get it in bulk, so that's a lot easier too. And I just get kitty longs because I like long string. But yeah, there's also, my buddy Alexander German has company String Shack, and his string is really quality stuff too. But when I am preparing for like a competition and everything, I use kitty string. Use stores here in Utah, like toy stores that for a little while carried some yo-yo products. And so they carry some kitty strings still, because they bought quite a few, and then they stopped carrying the yo-yo products, but they still have the string left over. Mm-hmm. So you can get a decent price there too.
So our next question here is from Nicholas Lotman. What's your favorite trick?
I think the sleeper's a good one.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that probably takes the cake without sleep.
Basis of everything.
But if I had to choose an actual trick that's not my own, it would be shoot the moon. I think that one's a really fun trick. I really like that one.
Both classics. There you go. Eli Yo-Yos asks, what do you think about the yo-yo scoring system?
Ooh. Yo-yo politics. I like it. I'm not sure how I feel about it, actually. I'm pretty indifferent to the scoring system, I think. I liked it better when there was more of the rarity aspect in it. I got a lot of points in that. So it was definitely better for my style, I think. But I like that it's challenging me to have to actually create a routine, like choreograph a routine. I kind of like almost. So I'm indifferent to the scoring system right now. There could be things that could be better. It could definitely be a lot worse. I'll just ride the current, I guess.
Next question here is from Tie-Dye Sky. Do you have any advice for someone who would like to start a yo-yo club?
Yes. Of course, it's always really important to find out how many people in your community are involved in the yo-yo scene or are interested in that. I think the best way to go about starting a club, if you don't have very many people you know of who already yo-yo in your area, would be, if you go to school, then maybe starting a club there. You can talk to some local toy stores, and usually they appreciate that. You can do it at libraries, and libraries are usually a really good place too, because they'll put it on their little bulletin board. So you'll get people coming in. It involves a little bit of work, yeah, but it's definitely worth it. For a long while, all of the meets in Utah were based in a library, because that's how I learned about the yo-yo meets, actually, through the newspapers. There was a show that went on at the library, and within that, it mentioned that there were meets, like once a month on a specific Saturday. So that's kind of how I started to get in touch with the community here in Utah. And so I think that would be one of the better ways to start it, is through like your school or through the library. Probably the library, the more I say it.
And what do you think is the best path for learning for a beginner?
Ooh, of course, I love all the old school tricks, all the classic yo-yo tricks, the ones you'd hear on like Smothers Brothers. But I think now, when it comes to the best path, I guess, it's definitely easier to learn how to yo-yo when you're around a group of people who also yo-yo, because they can give you pointers on things that maybe you weren't thinking about initially when you began learning that trick. If you have, like, if there's a club nearby, or you know of a club in your area or in your state, here in Utah, we just have like a Facebook page for it, then I would suggest going to those. But if you can't, which I wasn't able to for a long while, I would suggest really getting down. Like, I used to watch those videos, Expert Village, I think.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah, with like Andre.
Yep.
And those were really helpful for me. He's really, like, those were really great at explaining how the trick was done. And he made sure it was clear that you weren't going to get it the first try, maybe, or even the second try, but as long as you continued to try, then it would eventually come about. Yeah, I would say probably the best way to go about it is, if you can, of course, yo-yo with others. And if you cannot, then you can always ask players questions too. Like, I'm always glad to help someone out, even over like messaging. And that's how I think most sponsored players are. We're all really pretty excited to help others learn. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, I think you kind of answered this already, but if you wanted to add any more detail, you could. Given that yo-yo is very male-dominated, have you ever met any adversity because of your gender?
I don't think I've met any adversity, really. It definitely was more, like I said before, it was more intimidating, I guess. Because, like, not because I felt I couldn't do as well as any of the guys, because I do just as well as my male friends, because it's yo-yoing. I've dedicated quite some time to it, so that's important to note.
Right.
But it is, like I said, even if it isn't the case, it feels like there are more people who are like, they have their eyes on you, like, wow, this is the only female here. That's strange. Let's watch her performance type stuff.
Right.
And so that's like the only thing I've really felt in competition. When I was in BAC, I was helping the one drop booth, and I had a few kids who didn't believe I yo-yoed. So that was interesting. I guess that was kind of weird, because there are a lot of girls who will help behind the counter who don't really yo-yo, I guess. But other than that, I haven't ever met any adversities.
Gerald Carbonneau, who says, what yo-yo fad do you want to go away?
Yo-yo fad. Ooh. I really dislike, this is just like a fad in general, I think, for a while. It's died down for sure now, but like the kneeling and praying look, I did not like that, and that was really big, like a year and a half ago. Everyone was doing it in every picture, and it got really big in the yo-yo community. I didn't like it at all. I'm not sure. I don't think I follow the fads enough to really dislike one enough that I would want it to go away.
All right, next one here is from Yo-Yoist, who asks, where do you get your inspiration, and how much do you yo-yo every day?
My inspiration varies. Sometimes I could be watching a yo-yo video or like a trick circle on Instagram and see something that I thought looked pretty cool, like just kind of the way their body moved or their hands moved, and think about how I could incorporate that with my own tricks. But most of the time I'll be listening to music and think of a song that kind of, not a song, but like a trick that kind of works with that song in the moment. So a lot of my tricks actually are named after the songs I was listening to when I came up with the trick. And so, or that's how I remember the trick. So, music, I guess.
Oh, and they asked, how much do you yo-yo every day?
Oh, yes. That also varies. Sometimes I'm really busy, so I get maybe 30 minutes in, if I'm lucky. Other days, I could be yo-yoing from the time I get home until I go to bed at night. And that's typically about, like, 5 hours. So it's definitely a toss-up. But I think, like, the most consistent amount of time I practice a day is probably when it's nearing competition, 2 hours, and then 2 to 3 hours probably. And then if it's just hanging out, an hour probably. Some days I just don't yo-yo. It's good to, like, it helps me come up with different tricks if I'm not constantly yo-yoing, I think.
Will Prater asks, I think we all know who that is, who is your favorite player?
Of course Will is. There you go, Will. That's a really good question. That's unfair, I think. I can't, like, mention a favorite player. I have too many friends who yo-yo.
Right.
I'm gonna mention one anyway. So I think the one that, like, inspired me the most for the longest time was Paul Dang. So he's always up on my list of, like, go-tos when I show people, and that's kind of how I base my quote-unquote favorites, is who I think of to show people. when I'm showing them yo-yo players, because they're my watch. Paul Ding's definitely up there, and Connolly is a fun one to show everyone because she has a lot of fun, and you can see that, and I really admire that. Newer players, I really enjoy watching Michael Furtico. He's got a really fun style too. Really enjoyable performances. And then Charles and Jensen, of course.
Of course.
Of course, like, can't be in the yo-yo community and not love them.
Right. All right.
That's I get far more than one. I don't have a favorite. Stop asking.
All right. So, well, I'm afraid I can't stop asking because the next question is from Javier Augusto, who asks, who's your favorite Mexican player?
Ooh, but at least this is a region. I can try to figure that out. I actually really like Javier's style. So that was an unfair question. He knew. No, I'm not sure actually. Kerbal is always fun to watch.
Yeah, it's pretty acrobatic and really good for demonstrating to an audience too.
Yeah, he's a fun one to show people for sure. Betty's really good too. I'm not sure if I have a favorite Mexican player. I admire a lot of styles. That's my hardest part. So many tricks that are amazing. I can't choose a favorite player because of it.
Next one is from, let's see here, from Max Chu, who says favorite yo-yo outside of One Drop and favorite colorway.
Let's see. Favorite yo-yo outside of One Drop, definitely the Grail, I think. That one's a really solid throw. Really enjoy that one. And colorway, I don't know the names of any of the colorways.
Yeah.
Silver and purple, but it's like half and then it fades into the other color. It's a really cool look. I really like it. So whatever that one is, that's a really cool one, and I really enjoy that colorway.
I think this is Trill asks, what are your favorite yo-yo companies and why?
Ooh. All right. Well, of course, One Drop is my favorite. Because of the team and how everyone is with each other. It's a really positive company to be around, I think. You come up and talk to any of us at, like, contests or anything. We love it. It's great. If you're a good person, you're part of One Drop. You like the product, you're part of One Drop. We're just one big family, and I really enjoy that. Other companies, I really like TokYo-Yo. Very similar. They're like a family as well. And so is Monkey Finger. Those are some really good companies, I think. I really admire those companies as well. They do a lot for the community. And, of course, Duncan. Without Duncan, I don't think most of the players now would be yo-yoing. You think about your first yo-yo, it's typically a Duncan yo-yo. At least from when I started. I definitely would put that in one of my favorites because of the fact that they help the community grow so much. I think those ones are really good companies.
Yeah, Duncan's in an interesting position. I've recently talked to Remy from them, and he was mentioning how they've kind of made a big shift recently, and they're really getting a lot more aggressive with their products, and their social media has been really active, and they've kind of shifted from being like a big company, a big toy company, to being like really cool and trendy and getting all these awesome players and stuff.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's really cool. I'm glad they're starting to do that. They deserve more recognition, I think, for sure. In the yo-yo, I feel like in the yo-yo community, the brands you think of once you're in the community are definitely like Yo-Yo Factory, CLYW, Drop, companies like that. But when you're starting, it's like Yomega and Duncan. I'm glad they're starting to get a little more focused on that, I think. That's awesome. I'm glad. That's a good thing to hear.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it for all of my questions. Yeah, that's going to do it for today. Thanks very much for joining me.
Of course, I'm glad I could be part of it.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to put into people's brains before we head out of here?
Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Nah. Actually, though, always, I guess, just, like, keep in mind that yo-yoing's, like, the reason you started yo-yoing is because you thought it looked fun. For most people, I think. Keep that in mind as you continue. Don't make it all about, like, getting a sponsor or anything. That doesn't really matter down the line anyway. As long as you're enjoying it, then I think that's all that matters. That's something that a lot of kids tend to lose sight of because they want to either be on, like, the same team as someone they admire in the community, or they want to be admired like they admire this person in the community. I think it's really important to remember why you started. That yo-yoing is just, it's fun. It's meant to be fun. And so try not to forget about that.
Fantastic. Okay. What a great way to go out. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one thing I like to do is, at the end of the show, I like to ask the guest if they will sign us out with the catchphrase of my channel, which is Sayonara.
Awesome. All right. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, well, this has been a fun interview. I'm happy I was part of it. Thank you so much. Everyone check out this channel. It's amazing, I think. I really enjoy it. By the way, I didn't get to say that. I really enjoy your channel.
Thank you.
And so definitely check it out and everything if you just, like, happen to watch the interview because my name was in it, which I don't see happening. But if that's a fact, then check out more of this content because it's really great.
Thanks.
And yeah, so sayonara.